Hey everybody, welcome back this week. I have lovely Luba with us once again. Luba, say hello.
Hey everyone, it's good to be here.
Good to be back. You had a good New Year?
Oh my God, we ran a 300 people conscious party in Boston. It was incredible. Yeah. What
Good.
about you, Patrick?
I was in visiting Dubai and Oman for the
Yeah.
first time. I shot a couple really nice videos. I hung out with some dolphins. It was a funny experience. We got something very, very special for you guys this week. We're going to be talking about opening up your heart space. We're going to be talking about dealing with heartbreak and pain and past hurts to make sure that you don't bring that into any new relationship that you've encountered. So, Luba, would you like to get us started? First of all, what kind of tea are you drinking today is what I want to know.
Oh, actually, I not only I'm drinking a fantastic tea, but I'm also using a this beautiful cup from Anthropology, which I find to be a piece of art. And the tea is red clover, which is a really, really good tea for hormonal balancing, and it also calms you down. So that's where I am. What are you drinking, Patrick?
I'm having my usual jasmine pearl green tea, but I've bought some rose petals in a market in Dubai, and I've been adding it to my jasmine. It's
Mm.
quite relaxing.
Wow, that sounds beautiful. I love roses.
Mhm. So why don't you get us started, Luba? What do you think about this topic? I mean, I've noticed that a lot of people when they'll go through hurt, you'll notice that they carry it with them, and there's a rigidity around their heart space. They tend to be very. Men tend to have this a lot too. Women is a little bit more subtle, but I'll notice that in men very often there's like this constraint. Even their movements are almost constrained, and you can see that it comes from past hurts, and it's to make sure that they don't fully put themselves on the line again and risk that kind of pain. What do you think?
Yeah, what happens is that when we feel hurt, we contract. We contract because just imagine if you are fluffy and flowing, how easy it is for you to be hurt again, right? But when you contract, you become harder, and then it's not as easy for something to penetrate you. So that is our natural reaction. We give ourselves a promise of never again. And the moment that promise runs through our consciousness, something happens on every level of our existence, starting with energy level, and then it actually translates into the physical level. I also have to say that often it translates even into diseases when we contract like this, and it affects different organs, specifically contractions from hurt from romantic relationship can hurt kidney, it can hurt the heart, and often can be a reason for gallbladder issues. So yeah, it goes all the way. And so what is your question?
Well, we're gonna get into some very good tips in a little bit, but first I want to play around the concept of vulnerability because for me especially, the masculine tends to be terrified of vulnerability because it's seen as a weakness almost. And I'm not talking about letting your emotions show and that it's, I'm not talking about social convention here. I'm talking about genuine open vulnerability in which what you see is what you get. There's no barrier. And so it's my belief, and when I do coaching with a lot of clients, and you'll notice that when they'll come up to me, they'll have this wall. There's an emotional barrier between who they actually are and who they project themselves to be. And so to me, really self-discovery, the journey itself, is just, it's about how open can you be, even in tremendous pain, right? It's the degree to which you're hiding behind an emotional wall, and if you can overcome that, if you can open through that pain and really deal with the past hurts that you've been accumulating and carrying, well, your new relationships and every subsequent relation becomes just fresh and beautiful and pleasurable. And there's I notice that there's almost a beauty that comes with that pain. Like, yeah, you ended it with your partner, and it hurts, yes, but there's almost a beauty to that suffering where you're able to observe it, and you're fully open and you're fully breathing it in, You know, you're really, really, really standing in that pain. And what it reminds me of is almost like a child, right? So children, they'll cry and they won't distract themselves. They will literally cry their eyes out until there's nothing left. And when that's done, they'll go right back to playing again and they'll be happy again because they've dealt with that emotion that's been building up, you know. And you see animals. I was watching, you know, ducks at a pond, and they'll get into like a little, you know, they'll snap at each other and then they'll split off, and the ducks will shake their feathers, you know. And it's just, they're just getting rid of all of that hurt that they've accumulated, and then back to normal, back to just.
Yeah, absolutely, Patrick. And what you're describing again, in some ways, is a way of dealing with things within the neo-tantric philosophy and approach, and which is living through something in totality, allowing the emotions to fully go through, because it's when we repress something, that's when it becomes stronger. When we fight something, that's when it becomes stronger. And yes, absolutely, most people don't even know that they are not fully daring to feel. Most people don't know what's happening to them. They're so used to being closed, and they hardly remember what it feels like to be open. That memory goes away really fast. And so they are in suffering, but that suffering is habitual, and it expresses itself as inability to connect intimately with the available person. Now, in tantric practice, we do a lot of things to let people de-armor, or somehow to melt the ice of their protection and get in touch with their real feelings. Getting in touch with the real feelings can be very scary, because real feelings can be still mourning for a relationship. It can be still wanting to cry. It can be still maybe some kind of feeling of betrayal by the partner or by the world. So when that happens, surprisingly, and that wound opens up and the emotion comes through, there is absolutely a way of letting it come through just as a pure energy, and with your intention transmuting that energy even into ecstasy. There is one exercise where you can start sobbing because you are unhappy, but then this sobbing becomes orgasmic, and as it becomes orgasmic, if you direct it to be orgasmic, all of a sudden this whole past story gets rewritten. And I know it's kind of hard to believe, but this exercise works really well. Again, I want to say that when we talk about children, or we talk about ducks, or we talk about light, playful beings, we are not taking into consideration the. So let's say if you were with someone and you focused your attention on that person for a really long time, and your worlds have merged, and you had expectations, and there are hardly any relationships which last more than a day without expectations. It's just a human nature. As much as we try not to have them, there's still an intrinsic part. And so if it became a big part of your being, then just shaking it off is very, very challenging. And in fact, the more you kind of let go of your core during the relationship, the more you'd be suffering during the breakup. Now, the recipe, or not the recipe even maybe, but the way to be able to be willing to be hurt again is the only way to attract love, which is the topic of our next show.
So yeah, I
Right?
want to ask you, Luba, can you expand a little bit? I really liked what you said earlier when you mentioned that being willing to be to be hurt again. Can you talk more about that? I'm very curious. What
Yeah,
does that look like?
that is the vulnerability, right? Actually, the truth is, be hurt. It's not going to be like all joyful and things are just going your way.
sorry to cut you off. We're gonna cut right here because it froze, so I lost you. I'm
Oh,
gonna
okay.
edit this part out. So
Sure.
just answer the
Mm-hmm.
question if I just asked it,
Mm-hmm.
please.
Yeah. Do you want to ask me the question again?
It's okay. That
Or
part was fine.
just
But as
answer.
soon as you
Okay.
started to answer, it
Okay,
cut.
great.
So just
So,
answer.
so here is a very deep wisdom. Joy is not just about feeling joy. Joy is about feeling everything. You can't just program yourself to only feel positive emotions. It is bullshit.
Yeah, agreed.
So, if you are open, if you're willing to put your heart on the thorn of a rose, so to speak, that is the only way that you can experience that ecstatic love. And it is a hero's journey in a way. It is a special deed. It requires a lot of courage to be hurt and to be open to be hurt again.
Yeah.
And there are some conditions how you can do it. There are some ways to help, to rejuvenate, to resurrect in love, which I would love to share if you'd like.
Yeah, give us some ways. What do you advise normally when you'll have a client who'll come up to you and who
Yeah.
clearly just went through a heartbreak?
Oh, yeah. I actually co-wrote a book called Healing the Broken Heart with CC Treadway. And I sent it out to a lot of people. And it's very helpful. Once I was heartbroken, not once, many times, but there was one time when I was heartbroken, which really put me into a very, very, very deep, dark night of the soul. And I felt that there is not enough help for people who are just heartbroken. And actually, I came up with this idea to create a retreat for those people. And that was one of the first ideas of creation of my meditation retreat center. And then I co-wrote this book, Healing the Broken Heart, which we'll be happy to share with you
We'll
guys.
put a link in the description.
Yeah, wonderful. So one of the most necessary things in order to open up again is to forgive. To forgive your ex-partner, to forgive yourself, and to forgive the universe or God or whatever it is. And the only way that you can allow yourself to forgive is if this situation or this aspect of energy or this specific relationship is not happening to you any longer. We are holding the grudge, we are holding the pattern of non-forgiveness because we are protecting ourselves. What we're doing is, it's kind of like we're saying, I cannot forgive this because if I do, it's going to happen to me again, it's going to hurt me again. That's why it is necessary for me to hold that. As long as we're holding something like that in us, that means that there is a part of us, this tight part of us, which is just not available to the real feeling, not available lessons to come through. So in order for us to be able to forgive and not to be threatened by this specific person or this kind of relationship, we need to several things. One of them is faith that everything that's happening in your journey is a learning process, that there are no mistakes. Faith that there are no coincidences, that when we attract people or people are attracted to us, it means that something was supposed to be learned, that there was a lesson there. Because when we feel that things happened to us, towards us, and God knows why, we become a victim. We have to get out of this victim mentality through faith. And that faith is that we are co-creating our life experience together with the universe. And so the faith is that whatever has happened, happened for a reason and happened so that we would learn something. And the next part is to understand what is it that you've learned through that relationship? What is it that you were supposed to learn? So once you get that, once the lesson is learned, creation doesn't have any more need to make you face that aspect of it, of creation, of itself. Creation doesn't have any more need for you to be attracted to that specific energy or to that specific relationship or a person. So once the lesson is learned, you can move on. The charge is gone, and then you can really forgive. Does it make sense?
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of a concept that I talk about with my clients. And actually, what it really reminds me of is a quote in the there's a passage in the Tao Te Ching where it says, "Because he clings to nothing, his heart is open as the sky." And it's such a beautiful way to live. It's such a there's like this. I mean, what I'll talk about is I'll say, be the actor in your movie, but don't forget to watch the movie. And sometimes we get so caught up in our own drama, which is okay. I mean, we have every right to be. We're worried. We can't pay the bills, and there's the problem with the kids, and there's the girlfriend or the wife, and there's all this trouble, and it's understandable, of course, right? Unless you're willing to become a monk and go hide away in a monastery, you can't escape the ups and downs of life. No one's going to protect you from the good times and the bad times because it's the way the nature works, right? One moment it's sunny, and then the next it's pouring rain, and then the next it's sunny again, and then you get hit with an earthquake and a tornado and a tsunami. But that's okay. That's fine. Because if you want to escape, you can go be a monk, or you'll die at some point. But if you're going to stay in the world, and I'm assuming most people will be, and that's absolutely important too. If you're going to be a part of the world, you have to remember to watch your movie. Take action, absolutely. And this is karma yoga. This is the essence of the Bhagavad Gita. Do as you will, but keep God in mind. So in the same sense, go ahead with your life and your relationships and cry fully when you need to and love fully when you have to. But don't forget to take that step back and know that, yeah, in the moment it sucks, it hurts, and you're not understanding, you're confused and you're lost and you're alone, right? Because that's the scariest feeling is this total loneliness. But if you look back and you realize that every single moment up to this point, if one tiny chink in the armor had, one tiny link in the armor had changed, it would be an entirely different story. And life would be boring otherwise, right? If it was just like this, if it was just the good time, it'd be boring. No one would want that. You need the ups and the downs and the twists, and you don't know what's going to happen. So forget to watch your movie.
Yeah,
But watch. So Luba, we're
yeah,
on time. If you have a comment on this little segment, go ahead.
I do. I have a very interesting comment, I think, on that. In the deepest sense, we always encounter what we're deeply afraid of because secretly we want to face what we're deeply afraid of. Just like as secretly we want to dismantle of our values.
Mm.
Did you
Wow.
get that?
I do. It reminds me of there's a very classic Zen saying that if you keep encountering the same problems over and over, it's because you haven't yet drawn the lesson that you should be drawing from it.
For sure, for sure. So, but what I just said is that it would be presumptuous to think that we want something to manifest on every level.
Mm.
Honestly, we think that we want this, but maybe we want something completely different, and it is playing out. Our subconscious mind has a way of playing out, and we when we go through the lesson, we can look back when we're watching this movie and come in thankfulness for any story, especially heartbreaks. Those are the most enlightening experiences. Heartbreaks bring us closer to God at the end of the day, bring us closer to knowing ourselves. And heartbreak can be an incredible spiritual vehicle. It can be like an awakener if
Mm.
if it's taken with that approach that we've described.
Yeah.
And of course it's very difficult while you're in it, and of course you think you're all alone and things are happening to you, and why was it, and I thought it's going to be like this but it wasn't like that, and poor me, and I offered all of me and all my love and nothing happened, that's unfair, and maybe of course in the next thing maybe it's because, of course it's because I don't deserve to be loved, and I don't deserve to be loved because I'm ugly, old, fat, or just not good enough. That whole story gets awakened immediately. The deepest childhood wound gets awakened by the heartbreak. And that is an opportunity for us to look deeply into ourselves and to see, who are we? Who are you? What is it? What is that illusion that you created about yourself? And the more flexible you are about your ideas about yourself, the more you remember that you are just Atman, that you're just one consciousness, the easier it is to survive heartbreak. And the more fixed you are in your ideas about who you are, how your partners should be, the harder it would be for you to go through a heartbreak. Does it make sense?
Yeah, really does actually. Really
Yeah.
does. So we're gonna call it for now, and be sure to stick around for next week's episode. We're gonna be talking about how to attract your ideal partner. Before we say goodbye, I want to know, Luba, do you have a specific tip or practice that we can give our listeners and viewers, and what they can do right now if they're suffering from broken heart, and how to open that heart
Yeah,
space?
absolutely. I have a fantastic practice for that. Very simple. You can do it at any moment in time. It's helpful for you. It's fantastic for the world. So every time when you feel that you're suffering, allow yourself to feel it. And as you breathe in, feel the pain all the way through. And at that moment, remember all these other people in the world who are also suffering, all the lovers, all the people who lost their love, whoever they are, as you're breathing in your suffering. And as you breathe out love for all of them, not only for yourself, but for the whole suffering of the world. And through that compassion, you're going to be healed.
It's very nice. I like that. Mine's going to
Thank
be
you.
a little bit more selfish, but
All
I'm
right.
more concerned with the physiological effects of a heartbreak. And you'll notice that if there'll be a tightness around your chest, your heart will be closed, and there'll be an inclination to even close your eyes or blink a lot. That's retreating. That's retreating inwards and keeping your hands in front of your body, or even if you're out with your friends and you got your beer protectively here or your drink. And so what I want you to do is to push against that instinct to close up. And whenever you notice yourself closing, make it a conscious habit to bring yourself back, to relax your shoulders, to open your chest, and to breathe through that pain, through the tightness in your heart. Don't fight it. Don't wrestle with it. Don't try to think your way out of it. Just breathe through it until you're nice and fully relaxed. And you're here and now in this room with us. So that'll be it. And I'll talk to all of you next week. Bye bye, Luba. It was a pleasure to have you as always.
Thank you so much. This was great. Thanks.